of the story. When I first made that initial, I was an attorney working in New York, but I grew up, born and raised in West Bountiful, Utah. I went to Viewmont High School and have deep roots in Davis County. So I always was reading the Deseret News and the Tribune online, and I saw that Rob Miller was running for the Davis County Commission. So I'm like, I got to help this guy. I got to have strong Davis County Democrats. So I called him up and made a $100 campaign contribution to his campaign. And based on the kudos he just gave me, that was the best $100 I've ever spent. You know, I couldn't put it anywhere better. Yeah, so Rob was mentioning our visit to DC and getting to know Mr. Singh. So it was what, just about a month ago? Yep. It was about a month ago that I walked into a store, and I walk in and he says, "Oh, Ben," and he knew my name, and then he said, "How is Rob?" And I was blown away that this guy knew, first of all, recognized me, knew my name, and remembered Rob's name a year after we had been there. And then as I spent some time in the shop, I realized that it wasn't such a miracle that he knew my name. He had found Rob's blog post and printed it out, laminated it, and posted it in about 8 different spots around his shop. So I'm sitting there shopping, and I see my photo glued to the wall, and Rob's photo somewhere else, and so we are models and advertisements, and we should get royalties on that. So anyway, thank you for inviting me today. As I mentioned, I do have deep roots in Davis County. Davis County is my home, and I moved to Salt Lake when I was going to the University of Utah, and then graduated from the University of Utah and moved to New York City to go to law school, and I practiced in New York for a few years before moving back home. And my wife and I my wife is actually a Davis County native too. She grew up in Centerville, and we met at Viewmont High School. So we now live in Salt Lake City, and when Senator Scott McCoy resigned, I jumped in and ran for that. So I've been a senator for a month and a day. It's been, let me just say, it's been quite an education being up at the legislature for the last 3 weeks. As you can attest, and it's been an interesting session. I think the budget has been, the veterans up there say it's been the most difficult budget we've had ever. But I would also say it's also been, there have been a lot of message bills, a very negative tone in the message bills that are running, which disappointed me too. But let me first start and talk maybe about the positive. You want the positive or the negative first?
Positive.
The positive first. With my roots in Davis County, and then I've been working with Mayor Becker for the last couple of years and helping him establish a link between Salt Lake City and Davis County. When Mayor Becker came into office, he and I spoke, and we agreed that it was absurd that there was this animosity, I think largely generated by Mayor Rocky Anderson, this animosity between Davis County and Salt Lake City. These two communities are inextricably linked. We are, I think there are many people like me. We looked around the mayor's office and we realized that 60% of the people working in Mayor Becker's office were Davis County natives. And I think that's true for a lot of Davis County. People live in Davis, and maybe even more so for southern Davis County, but live in Davis County. How many are Davis County? This is the Weber in Davis, right?
Yeah.
And who's Weber? Great. We have a lot in common. A lot of people who live in Davis County, went to the University of Utah, either currently or formerly worked in Salt Lake City. We have a lot in common. A lot of people from Davis. I know because I did this for many years, and my family that lives in Davis County feel this way too. That come to either you're going to Salt Lake City or maybe to Layton for shopping or restaurants or movies, and so there's a strong bond between our communities, and how sad it was, I think, that Mayor Anderson squandered that relationship. But Mayor Becker and I have made it a priority to recognize the relationship that exists and build upon it. So in the last month that I've been in the Senate, I've reached out, and I actually before I had a great relationship with Senator Greg Bell, now Lieutenant Governor Greg Bell, who despite his misguided political beliefs, is a pretty good representative, pretty good legislator, and good representative, I think, of the Davis County area. So I've tried to reach out and build relationships with representatives from Davis County. I'd like to see more Democrats, but I'm happy to reach out to the ones who currently exist. And we're identifying some projects that we can work on together to mirror this bond that exists between our communities, and strengthen it. And there are a couple of ideas that these, these will take several years to bring to fruition, but one of those is, I think it's silly is maybe the word, that because there's a county boundary that goes, that bisects Beck Street between Davis County and Salt Lake City, that we have a trax line that goes to Harriman, but there's not a trax line that goes to Davis County. Now, Davis County is closer to downtown Salt Lake City than many of these other communities. We need to connect our communities through mass transit. And so that's one of the things we're working on, is to advance a proposal to extend a trax line through North Salt Lake, Bountiful, and into Centerville. I think will be the first phase into Centerville. And then after that, let's take it into Farmington and Kaysville. Now, many people say, well, Davis County has front runner. And I think the front runner system has proven to be a success for those who use it. But as someone who lived in South Davis County, my sister who lives in Layton, front runner is great and they use it. But if you're in South Davis County and you can get to downtown Salt Lake City by car as quickly as you can get to a front runner station by car, you're not going to use it. And so that's where we've said front runner is a long distance system. And what we need is a short distance system like Trax that stops more frequently, stops every few blocks rather than there's a front runner stop in Woods Cross and one in Farmington. So if you live in Bountiful, you're not going to drive north to catch front runner, and by the time you're driven to Woods Cross, you're just going to keep on going into Salt Lake. So that's one of the proposals that we're working on together is, and then it'll take 5, maybe 10 years, but I'd love to see our communities linked by mass transit. Another one that we've talked about is Legacy Highway, which I think was necessary. I drove I-15 into Salt Lake City every day, and you sit, I would always have to leave for work an hour early, and I might be able to get to work in 10 minutes, but it might take an hour. So you always had to go to Salt Lake and leave an hour before you had to get there, and you might be sitting there for 45 minutes not knowing, not knowing what to do. So Legacy Highway was, I think the compromise that came through balanced a lot of competing interests, but I think it was necessary and done in a way that actually worked out okay. But you look at Legacy Highway, one of the complaints that I have with Legacy Highway is Legacy Highway takes you right past downtown Salt Lake City. If you're coming into Salt Lake City on the Legacy, you can't get to downtown. You take Legacy, you're funneled onto 215 and you're off. And I guess that's okay because it does siphon some traffic off of I-15 so that you have the ability that I-15 moves more quickly. But I would love to explore, and I've spoken with Senator Stuart Adams, who was elected to fill Senator Kilpack's spot, about maybe studying and looking at some connection between Legacy and I-15 right there as Legacy comes into Davis. So there are some good things we're working on. I think it's my responsibility as a senator from Salt Lake City to recognize that my constituents, some of my constituents, are those people from Davis County who come in and work in Salt Lake City, support a tax base in Salt Lake City, and so what can we do to further that link? And it's not just about drawing a line and us versus them, but it's about working together. Now, let's talk maybe about some of the things that I've been disappointed with. Controversial election year issues trotted out. And I think that's disappointing. We've got a very tough budget year, a lot of hard things to work on, and I wish we could be working together to solve problems rather than throwing out red meat that an election year is going to help our base. One of those is, as we are examining difficult cuts to the budget, cuts to aging services, cuts to disability services, the legislature spoke this week from both the Senate and the House that it is a priority. One of their bills, sponsored by Senator Margaret Dayton, is to exempt from, I don't want to bore you with the legalese part of it, but it says that if a gun is manufactured and sold in Utah, that it's exempt from federal regulation. Now, make no mistake, this isn't a gun bill. And I would suspect many people here, like some of my family who are Democrats, are also pro-gun rights people. And I want to respect that. This is not a gun bill. This is not about gun rights. It is about sticking it to the federal government. They have 13 bills this session that are aimed at sticking it to the federal government. You want this gun bill that is about federal regulation and exempting from federal regulation.